Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was at the filming with all these videos or whatever, doing the cameras or whatever. So most of those videos are all done with a GoPro and just a drone. So like the witty one and the one I showed you from the the coast when we're fishing, all GoPro. And so like GoPro has like little wristband that you can do to just turn it off and on. And I didn't really do it. I just got lucky on a few of them. I just turned it on and all
Just
of a sudden we
kept it
start
on.
catching fish. And I was like, what kind of stupid luck is this? But like in that bag over there, I have what I have it's a DJI makes a like a Ronin they call it. It's a gimbal. So
Right.
like I have it's a Sony AX7 III or something camera, and whatever lens you want on it, what it does, it counterbalance itself, and then it becomes a gimbal. So like I did
So it stays level basically the whole time.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I did a film for our New Braunfels cook-off, and I used it all, and that one actually came out real good. I'll show you that one. That one was pretty cool. The hardest thing is attention spans are short, right? So I'm like, how do I take all this and just make it like a minute, a minute and a half? Like that one was a 3 minute long song,
Yeah.
so usually I try to, most people,
Fulfill the whole song.
yeah. So I'll take the song and I'll put it down like on Movavi is what it's called. So you have your content or your output right here, all your content here, whatever on this side is if you want to change to picture, music, video, font, whatever you want to add in there that changes the content. And then down here you have like, okay, you can put your timelines. So I put the music first to say, okay, I need to work in that timeline. And then my my dumbass now is like, okay, I'm liking this video shit, right? So I'm gonna start doing like documentary style stuff. So like fishing, you're always running those big red ants. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? The
Yeah.
hole in the middle. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start doing a documentary of red ants. So I'm like filming these things, right? So then, okay, here's the next thing. You're doing all that, right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna make this documentary, and you're like, oh well, fuck, I don't know where to start. So I start watching all these documentaries. I'm on like Hulu and Amazon and YouTube.
YouTube.
So I'm counting like how many seconds before transition to the next scene, how they integrate music versus their the sound of when they're talking and when they change, and then now I'm like, fuck, now I need a parabolic mic and I need all this, and I'm like, I'm gonna go broke.
Keep
Shit.
stacking on and tacking
Yeah.
on.
And then I follow all your stuff, and I'm looking. Actually, I have it right here. I'm looking at a lot of it too because it fucking is so cool. But like you just have a camera and a lens all you really carry around, or what?
Yeah, basically it's all handheld. One giant lens.
So how big a lens do you have?
Mine's at 200 to 500.
200 to 500. So I've been looking at like a 600 millimeter lens, and I don't know. I've been
Those are good. I mean, they're quality. The downside, I mean, everything has ups and downs. Downside is if you're close, you're kind of screwed. You got to back up. So
yeah.
I like something that you can have a little flexibility with it.
I have I have like 3 lenses that so I was looking at like a harness that you'd kind of put over where the camera hangs, and then it can hold 2 extra
Yeah.
lenses there. But again, like I see you climbing up trees and shit to get, so that lens, how big is that lens that you,
It's a couple pounds. I think it's about 5 pounds
what
with
is it,
the whole
about
camera
6,
lens.
8 inches, 8 inch, even
Well,
longer? But
when it's compacted before you go out to the 500, when it's
yeah,
compacted, it's probably about 14, 15.
no shit.
Yeah, I put it all right here. That's basically my setup, and it goes out to the 500.
And do you carry a tripod around with you
No, it's
ever?
basically all handheld.
Yeah.
The thing I like about Nikon, the vibration reduction,
Okay.
it's built in where it kind of little bits of movement, the picture will kind of
Even
overcompensate for it.
even your camera's a Nikon, or is it?
Yeah.
And and I guess it has different mount, because like, so mine's a Sony, so it carries like what's called an E mount, and I don't know much about.
Is it mirrorless or is it DSLR?
I have it over there. I have to look at it later. I don't know, but
Do you hear the shutter click when you take a picture?
I think so.
Yeah.
Is that
So that's what mine is. I mean, basically all the cameras nowadays, the Sony, the Canon, the Nikon, they're all awesome. And it's just a matter of finding which one you like the best, finding the lens that best suits your camera. And I mean, everything nowadays is kind of going to mirrorless where there is no shutter.
yeah? So just
It's all just a computer basically, but those take a whole different kind of mount, different everything. So
So do you sit in places at times and just sit there for like, I don't know, like 20, 30 minutes just waiting, or do you just try to mostly just walk around and catch your stuff where you can?
it depends if I'm going. A lot of my stuff is in the city. I take a lot of my pictures are
I noticed.
city animals,
Yeah.
so I do a lot of driving from neighborhood to neighborhood to this park, try this green belt. If I'm going to like a park or a green belt, yeah, I get out and do a lot of walking. If it's neighborhoods, it's sitting in the truck.
Just like hanging out like Hollywood Park. Do you go through Hollywood
Yeah,
Park
yeah,
anymore? Because I know
yeah.
they have amazing deer there. And are they still real amazing there, or they've kind of cleared out
Well,
some?
the biggest one in the city this last year that scored like 220, he was in Hollywood Park.
Okay.
Um, they don't have the population, but they've got good quality. And right next door is Hill Country Village, which is
Yeah, which
huge
is right on there.
lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge lots that the deer live in. And I've got permission to go in some backyards over there. The best thing about all these neighborhoods is trying to make friends. Uh, talk to all the people that live there. Try to get access. Try not to make them worry when they see your truck. That's the biggest thing. I couldn't count how many times I've had police or game wardens called on me just 'cause someone looking after the deer always looks suspicious.
I'll add these in here later. So right here, I'm looking at these deer. These are $3.
Well, that's the same buck, 3 different
I mean,
years.
not $3, but the same buck, 3 different years that you've. And where was that at?
That's kind of north of the medical center, kind of near the Huebner Babcock area. I try not to give too many specifics
No, yeah,
on
that's
my
fine.
deer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because then there's poachers out
yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
That's we have that ranch down in South Texas, and there's been times we found our fence that there's cuts in it and stuff, and we never brought in genetics. It's all been existing genetics, and
Just
just
feed them and let them
feeding
get old.
and well, yeah, hell, when it comes to a deer that's a trophy and it's 8 years old and it's not going to make it through, we're all trying to tell each other or somebody else to shoot it. We don't want to shoot them. We love watching
Yeah,
them. Just keep.
yeah.
And then once you pull the trigger, then it becomes even more expensive to do.
Process, mount
Um,
it.
and I was looking. So you have one of the cool. This was one of my favorites. Is where you have like that great horned owl
Right.
and I guess red fox, right?
The gray
Or
fox.
gray
That's a
fox.
barred owl. Yeah, those are all in a park over in Leon Valley.
Yeah, I noticed. I know that green belt that runs. Okay, Pet Boys or whatever back in there.
Right.
So my buddy lives back in there, and he's got nice bucks that go right through his front yard and stuff. And I guess it's from that Leon Valley,
Leon Creek,
Belt, green
yeah,
belt or whatever. Yeah,
yeah, and that goes through Opeach Nable, backs up to Alamo Golf Course,
it's
goes
long.
all the way. Yeah, and it's loaded with deer. I mean,
Do you travel there a lot?
I do. Yeah. There's quite a few that I follow in Opeach Nable. They've had a poaching problem the last couple years, so some of the bigger fellows have kind of disappeared. But there's still some that, yeah, I try to find the same bucks year after year and find the next one that's gonna be the next great one.
So I know another thing I was looking at is you're going through and you're looking at them all. Uh, the coolest thing that I'm trying to figure out is, okay, so I always used to make fun of like people that took pictures of birds, the bird watching and stuff.
Yeah, I feel like an old lady.
Well, so I was like, man, look at that dude. What a loser, old ass guy with his little binoculars and his cargo shorts and shirt. And now I'm looking at him because I'm playing with all this camera stuff, and I'm like, and I'm looking at what you have and seeing how beautiful some of these birds are, especially the coastal birds,
Yeah,
because there's so damn many of them, so different,
all
and
those little warblers and then all those birds down at the coast. I mean, that's a birder's paradise. Is down along the coast, especially when you get that migration coming through in the spring.
yeah.
It's awesome.
So the hardest thing that I was saying is like, okay, when you're taking all those pictures, I'm sure you run into a few. You're like, I don't know what fucking bird this
Oh
is.
yeah,
So do you have like a book, or you just get on the internet, or
I've got like 3 or 4 books. I've got a really good one now. One of those field guides. The old school ones were all drawings, paintings, but nowadays they've got ones where they've got a picture of every single
and you can
species.
find them?
Yeah.
Is there any apps like on the phone that you can use? Because like there's this one.
There's a Merlin app, and there's different Facebook groups where you post and they'll ID them for you. Kind of same thing with reptiles and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I've been, especially like flowers and stuff, when I was in St. Lucia and stuff. There's this app called Picture This,
Okay.
and literally you can take, it's like $30 a year or something. You take a picture of it, It'll tell you exactly what it is. It'll show you other pictures that verify to show you, and tells you, you know, what type of plant, if it's edible, all this. And like right now, I've got my probably wife hates it because there's Amazon books showing up left and right. I've got a bunch, like it's like the modern herbal dispensary, so it tells you like books or you know, plants and stuff that are, you know, helpful for sicknesses and diseases. I've got the house plant book, and she's like, "Are you turning into a woman? Like, are you taking estrogen pills?" You know,
Got
it's just
succulents.
yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel with birding. I mean, I always kind of feel a little dorky. If I do go to like birding centers down in Port Aransas, it's me and a bunch of 70-year-old people. But the more you're out there in nature and the more you really start taking pictures, the more you really appreciate the variances and the beauty in those things. And it's kind of cool to find one you've never seen before and to
Is that
go home and try to identify it.
so? You know, like we were talking about earlier, it's like, you know, I'm trying to put these videos together and make it seamless and find how. So like that first draft I showed you, it doesn't work with the music yet. You know, the transition to like one scene to the other, because like say all of a sudden goes into an upbeat. You
Yeah,
know,
you got to keep with the beat. Yeah.
yeah. So my thing here is, you know, look, thinking about you, you know, I've got video, so it's easy for me just to drag the little bar and scroll through it and catch scenes where you've got. I mean, how many pictures in a day do you take?
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, probably the biggest advice I could give for anybody doing wildlife photography is just click away. I mean, you're never gonna stop and get that one picture that's perfect. Just
Yeah.
click, 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 and go through them later and delete. When I was last time I was down there at that birding center in Port Aransas, I took over 2,000 pictures in a day, and that was not fun to go through and delete and edit and find the ones that I liked.
It's fun, but not fun.
It is, but it's not. Yeah,
Yeah.
it gets still tiring. You know, it takes a lot of time.
The what was it? I guess it's that alligator. Is it an alligator?
Yeah,
What kind?
boots.
Yeah, and that one's just been around there in Port Aransas. It's like one that doesn't really mess. Well, alligators are pretty docile toward people, right? So
Right,
crocodiles that are.
right. Yeah.
So and that one just a bit known. It walks through Port Aransas, right? Crosses the street. They see it all the time.
Yeah, and I was talking to an old lady the other day, and she said there used to be a female in there with him, and the female just disappeared after a while, and it's just been him for years and years now. But
He
people will
just
see him grab a hog and come and gobble it up, and he's chasing crabs in there and doing all
oh no
kinds of little
shit.
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
And I know there's a lot of different like so the what's the difference like okay, there's a wobbler, right? And or was that it? Wobbler, warbler,
Warbler, they're
warblers.
usually pretty tiny little birds.
And then there's like there's those like wide bill. What do they call them? They're like almost like a paddle bill, right?
The
Paddle bill,
spoonbill,
spoon
the
bill.
roseate spoonbill. Yeah, they're
And
pink.
there's a couple of those, and there's some that actually I know that look like flamingos, almost like pink
Yeah,
flamingos,
that's
but
the spoonbill. Yeah.
and so that but they're not a flamingo or anything, are
No,
they?
yeah. I
No,
think there's one flamingo down in Galveston that escaped from some zoo, and
it just hangs out.
he just hangs out. He's got a band on his leg, and everybody knows him. But he escaped from some zoo, and now he migrates and stays around the area and does
That's,
everything just like a
that's
regular
cool as
bird.
shit.
Yeah.
There used to be behind, so we have a place right there on North Padre, and back there's these little fingers in the water, like little finger things in shallow spots, and there was a dolphin that lived back there,
Really?
and everybody had different names. Some people called it Uni because it had like one eye. We called it Angela for angel, but I actually have have to find it, video of me just in the water swimming with her, all of us, my brother. So if you got in the water with it, she'd come up kind of toward the beach where you're at in the water, knock your legs out from under you because it wanted you to get in the water and swim with her. And so literally she would wait for you to grab onto her dorsal fin. It's a wild dolphin, just wild. And I think it was last year we were talking to one of the guys that we know that goes out, and they said that they came and removed her. You couldn't feed her any fish. She didn't want you to eat. But they're like, what you do is you'd start circling around in that little cove, and she'd come up in your wake, and then you just beach up and get right there in the water. And she just all she wanted to do was just play. She wanted friendship. I think she had a calf, and it died. But just this random dolphin that was just so friendly, like it escaped from SeaWorld or
Yeah.
something.
But they
But
removed her?
that's what I heard. I heard
Yeah, it's a
Texas Parks
shame.
and Wildlife came and got her or something. I don't know the whole truth, but sweetest thing ever. You know, you just didn't disturb her or mess with her as far as just she wanted to play. And I've have video of her where I'm hanging on her dorsal fin, and we go out and she wants to go deep, and it's like I can't go deep with you. and I'm swimming back. She comes up, gives you a little kiss on the cheek. She just it's just weird to see because I've been fishing, and then those little assholes come eat your fish as you're
Yeah.
trying to reel them in.
I've splashed off my hands after holding a fish, and all of a sudden there's a dolphin right at my fingers. And
Yeah,
it's like,
like what you
oh,
got? Yeah, sitting there right in the water.
yeah.
But
That's kind of the same with some of the city deer. I mean, you wanna interact with them.
they're wild
You
animals.
come to love them. You wanna see how close you can get, see if they'll eat out of your hand, and you have names for them, and you watch them year after year and year. But then too many people find out about it. Someone's gonna make the wrong move. You know,
So yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to talk about where you find these and take pictures of them. You just got to have them sitting there and then when people ask you, like, just out in the park, because
yeah.
then again, people just can't help themselves and want to
And
go
there's
take
gonna
them
be
out.
that one bad apple that comes, makes the whole situation no fun anymore.
And nuts, people are
Yeah.
like that. It's like nature is really cool. It's like, I mean, believe me, I love hunting more than anything. Hunt and fishing. I'll do that every day that I could. I always laugh at you know we work. My dad was family business, and everybody's like, "Well, is he going to retire?" It's like he didn't have any hobbies. He's hunting and fishing, and you can do that every day, but you can't really do it every day. So this is his hobby, work. And it's like, man, if I could figure out how to hunt and fish every day and still not go broke doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's what
So,
I'm trying to figure out, how to make something work with photography, that it does become your livelihood, the thing that supports your livelihood and does become your business, because it is what you love to do. But it's hard nowadays, now that there's no more magazines really that
that's
sell a
scary.
lot.
Talk about
Everything's
that.
online, and it's just hard to get a business. It's hard to sell those kind of things.
And have that's what we're saying. Like, you could do a lot with photography and maybe try to integrate some video behind it too, so that hell, I'd go with you and try to help you do like documentary style with some of them because that's what everybody wants to see. They want video behind. I mean, people's attention spans are
Sure. Yeah.
are ridiculous, but that's why I was like, man, nobody gets the quality of pictures you do. And I even like the Pecos River ones that you have. Where I was looking at earlier, you have where I guess you're standing in the middle on a rock or just in the water,
Oh, and the
and
Devil's
just
River.
yeah, the
Yeah.
Devil's. Oh my God, is that what
Yeah.
it is? The Devil's River.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That place is gorgeous. I mean, that water's crystal clear and it's remote. Very, very few people. I mean, it's pretty. First time I went this past year, and I've been wanting to go for years, and now I wanna make it a yearly thing because it's just awesome.
Not that far, right?
It's
That's
not too
not far.
bad. It's 2.5 hour drive. I mean, it's a little bit past Rock Springs kind of thing. The downside is it's so remote and there's so much private property that you have to set up a bed and breakfast. You have to set up uh, someone to come pick you up, drop you off, kind of a shuttle kind of thing.
Okay.
So you got to get permits.
I've been wanting to do more of this too. With these, my wife, I know it drives her nuts because everywhere we go, I'm videoing something. She's like, "Could you just hang out with us?" And
Enjoy it.
I'm like, but then I put these videos together, and she's kind of like, "Hey, that's kind of cool," But at the
Yeah.
same time, she's like, "I know it's your hobby. I know you love it. It's just kind of annoying that you're filming everything." And it's like, to me, they're all going to be good memories later on, and we're sitting there and we can look back at them.
Yeah.
But excuse me, like the Midwest is so pretty.
Oh, yeah.
All through the Midwest, from here straight up to Montana. And what sucks is there's so many areas, even in California. So when my wife and I first met, I had a trip planned to Fiji and New Zealand, and I couldn't afford to take both of us. And at that time, I think I was like 28, 29. I was like, man, I guess I need to either figure out if I'm going to do this marriage thing now. And I was like, okay, I'm going to see if we can get along, right? So I said, hey, I asked her, do you want to go on a road trip with me? We can rent a Suburban. We'll pack it full of camping gear. We'll drive to California, to San Diego, and pitch tents in some of the forests and the campgrounds around there, and then just cruise up all the way to the redwoods and stuff. And we did that.
Yeah.
But we left the day after Christmas, right?
Mhm.
And beautiful, beautiful places. I've never saw so much beautiful pieces of land, just the topography, everything. But it's just the cities now that you go into are just so like I never could. I can tell you. I guess this was about 9 years ago. I'd say San Francisco was one of the coolest cities for us to go to. And we're sitting there, and you're parking on this street that's literally like 25% grade. I don't even know what it was. It's just horrible. And I hear the sirens roaring, just and here comes a fire truck, and it's got to come up. Well, that thing is screaming around the corner, just flooring it, and there's a guy, driving the back of it. His forearm had to have been like that big, just turning that damn thing. And we're cruising through there, but it's like that. It's like when I wish I could have taken all those pictures and seen all that, but
now it's a whole different world over there. And you take a tent, and you're joining all the homeless people and all on the side of the road.
Getting bad.
Yeah, I want to go back to Yellowstone. That place is gorgeous.
Never been.
I mean, that place is awesome. I went when I was like 12, 13.
Yeah.
And I've been wanting to go back ever since. I mean, that place is just awesome. Wildlife, views, different things you'll never see. Geysers, pools.
That's what I've never heard. Geysers. Like, how was it? Is Old Faithful that's out there, right? Is in that one that's like constantly they have it on time limit every time it's going to go off?
Yeah, within like a half second routine. I mean, it's really regular. And then they've got other ones that are pretty close to it. You could stand there, and once every 15 minutes, this one's going to go off too.
Do you know exactly what a geyser is?
Steamed up water coming out of the ground, I presume.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like, because of there's like a, what's heating it up.
Yeah, it's all active volcano underneath Yellowstone. I mean, that's all that is just one giant underground volcano.
And that's what I think they said that's like the mega volcano. If it ever goes off, it'll destroy basically 3/4 of the United States or something like that. Not just from the but from all the ash and everything else. Is that the one that they always talk about?
And basically, it's just like all the others. It's overdue. We're just due for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the fault lines that, in Los Angeles, the San Andreas fault line or everything that runs through California, that thing's due to have a good eruption, and that would separate the big thing,
Yeah.
I know they have some earthquakes out there, but I'm still just blown away.
Oh yeah. And the wild places are getting fewer and fewer and smaller, and getting out to be in them is a good thing nowadays.
So if you could go somewhere tomorrow to actually get some great footage of animals out of anywhere here in the United States, where would you go?
Yellowstone,
easily, hands down, Yellowstone.
Hands down. They had that flood last year, so I'm not sure exactly how the roads are doing it being redone.
Yeah.
But there's roads and stretches out there where you're almost guaranteed to see a bear. The opportunity to see wolves, elk. When I was a kid, I went out there and, being 12, 13 back in, that was the 90s, I had one of those cameras where you had to wind it to get to the next one and then wind it, click, and there's no zoom. And I told my parents, I'm going to get up before sunup. I'm going to go take some pictures of some buffalo. And they're like, whatever, just don't wake us up. And I went out and got lost in the middle of the woods. Came out like 4 hours later. Like I finally heard cars driving down the road, and I came out, and there's this huge group of people on the side of the road. I was like, well, let me go see what they're looking at. And there's a herd of like a bachelor group of 5 different bull elk. One's a 7x7, just giant in velvet, gorgeous. And I'm up trying to get pictures because I ain't got no zoom, and the park rangers are like pulling me off, getting me in trouble, and you're too close, you can't do that. And I look over, and there's my parents looking at the elk too, and they didn't even care that I was gone. It was funny. And we get back home, and you got to develop the film back there. It's 35 millimeter. And we get all the pictures, and the buffalo fills up the entire picture. And they're like, how close did you get to this? I was like, well, 5, 6 feet.
You're watching these YouTube videos now where these ladies are getting, was a bison they're getting all close to, and they start fucking bucking them.
Yeah, they knock them out.
People in the background, lady, get away, lady. And all of a sudden this thing just comes rearing their head at them. So if, do you like big game more than doing the small stuff, or?
I like it all. I mean, just being a hunter, I love deer. That's kind of my main thing. But once you start to really appreciate things that kind of rare, not the everyday thing, like that gray fox, where you can get up to it, see it in a tree.
Yeah, I remember your son being under, pointing up at it, and that thing's just curled up in the tree. Y'all were probably at least 10 feet from that thing at one point.
Probably a little closer,
And it didn't even really give a shit. It just kind of hung out there, huh?
It did. It didn't for a while. Once I started telling him, I was taking those with my phone, and, the perspective doesn't really show what it is. So I was like, why don't you try climbing the tree a little bit and see how close you get? That kind of spooked him a little too much, and he boogered out. But
they're real loud, aren't they? They're real squeaky
They
when
can
they're
be, yeah.
and I know they're wiry. That like they run like they're on crack or acid or something. I don't know, man. I've seen them run around. They're
Yeah.
insane.
The ones that aren't used to people, it's very hard to get close to, but they're one of those animals that can come
How many different
semi-tame.
foxes do we have around here that you've seen?
Just gray foxes. I mean, there's red foxes going north and east Texas, but I don't think San Marcos is kind of the closest I've ever heard of one. But really, you got to get a little bit northern to get into the red foxes.
Have you? I saw that. I remember there's a picture you have, and I'll have to pull it up when I edit this. That it's a fox in like a mesquite tree or something like that. It's like up in the mesquite tree eating. Is that what that was?
Oh yeah, that
Or
was
is
out
it?
in Big Bend. It was a cedar tree, a juniper.
Okay.
Yeah, but he was eating those little juniper berries, and we were just walking the trail in Big Bend. You know, we had just got done chasing a bear up out of a tree.
just got done chasing a bear. No big deal.
It's yeah, and it's kind of bad because I had my son with me, and we came around a corner, we see the bear, and it takes off down this little drainage.
Little black bear.
Little black bear, yeah. And I was like, bear, and I've been going so many times trying to see a bear at Big Bend, never have. So finally, we come around this corner. There's one down at the bottom of the trail. Like, stay with me, stay behind me, give me the big lens because it's hard to walk with this thing hiking through. So I usually have my smaller lens, and I got to trade out. By the time I got the lens on, couldn't find the bear. And we went down, and I finally heard some little tree limbs breaking. I was like, he's up in a tree eating berries. Like, Graham, stay here on this rock. If anybody comes by, you're not alone. Your dad's over here. There's a bear.
Yeah.
Just let people know. And they're okay. So I'm out there getting pretty close. I finally see him, and then I hear people walking down the trail. So I want to make sure I go back to my son, make sure they're not worried about him. I tell him, there's a bear over here trying to get some pictures. Just keep a heads up. And that was my mistake. Now they wanted to come see it too. So now there's 3 of us walking in. As soon as we get to where the bear can see us, he's gone. And I get one
And they're
little
pretty quick, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're fast. It's very crazy how fast they are. It's surprising. And he took off, and I got 2 pictures that I like, but he's on his way, starting to move, and there's just a little blur. Kind of kills me on what it could have been. So we were like, oh well, the bear's done. So we hike back out and look over, and yeah, that fox is just sitting in the middle of that tree, just eating berries. Couldn't care we were there.
And you said that's a Nikon, is what?
Yeah, it's a Nikon D850.
So, and because again, like I've got that Sony, and I know like there's certain lenses. I don't know, quality wise. Like, okay, so every lens that I found that's about a 600 millimeter one or whatever, a decent one seems to be around $2,000.
Right.
Is that about what?
That's about right.
The same. Because you can get on there and you can see something like $10,000. You're like, I'm not buying all that shit. It's got all these buttons and stuff on it. But for what you're trying to do, and I know, when you're starting out like I am, and you're like, I don't, I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of money. But still, $2,000 is a lot of fucking money.
It's not an inexpensive hobby.
No,
you're going to end up spending some money. Those fixed lenses, that's 600 millimeter. It's going to have
the ones that it's like 200 to 600.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, this 200 to 500. I think I got it when I got it back in the day. It was $2,000. Nowadays, I think you can get it for 1,500. Just because everything's going to that mirrorless.
Yeah,
these are a little bit cheaper now because that's the more popular supply and demand. Of course. Those fixed lenses that get up to like $12,000 just for a lens, ridiculous. But that glass is just what you're paying for. Like I said, most of the cameras nowadays, quality is all about the same. You're going to get high quality out of any of them. I like Nikon mainly just the glass. I mean, you and I, growing up hunting, know the difference between binoculars.
Exactly.
So, and I always grew up just those Nikon binoculars were always so much clearer for me, without spending thousands for a
like a Steiner or something. Yeah.
So when I got into the camera, because my very first camera ever really decent camera was a Canon, but when I started wanting to buy a new one, I always thought Nikon just because that glass on those lenses.
My brother, I was talking to him, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go see Jared later. We're going to talk on the podcast. And he goes, ask him, talk to him about his camera lens. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to talk to him about that. That's what we're going to talk about. And he goes, I just want something because he sits in the deer blind all the time, and he's like, I just can't get a good shot. And he goes, I told him, so well, Clint, you're still 100 yards away. That you're going to need something even stronger because I mean, Jared's walking up a little ways. It's not like he's still 100 yards taking a picture that puts it like right there in
Right.
front of you.
Yeah.
He still gets up on him, but
That's
I
the
just
advantage to city deer. You can get close. And really the ideal distance is like 40 yards. 30 to 40 is what you want for your lens to be able to get that crystal clear clarity where you can see the hairs, you can see the shine in their eyes. 100 yards, even some of the best lenses in the world, you're not going to be able to get that.
yeah. So I was at the house lately. I've been working on or practicing with my little. I think it's like a Max 200. I want to say 200. I sit on the deck. We built a little deck, and I have hummingbird feeders.
Yeah.
So I've been catching the hummingbirds, and they'll stop and sit in the tree next to. And I think that's the coolest is when they just sit there because you never see a hummingbird just sitting still.
Right. Yeah.
But they're all that same like green color one. I know there's a million different types of hummingbirds,
Yeah, more than likely it's the black chinned. When you do catch it in the sun, you'll catch that purple in their throat.
but
The ruby throated ones are kind of the only other one we get around this area. And they're more of a seasonal kind of spring or fall as they're migrating through. The ones in the middle of summer are almost always the black chinned that have that purple throat. But yeah, it's when you can get them to look at that right angle where they catch that glare, it's awesome.
yeah, it's again, making fun of myself too now because I'm catching myself starting to look at birds, and I'll do a picture burst on my camera, so it shoots like 3 to 5 pictures, and so I'll hit it, and then especially when they fly off, so then I'll catch them with their wings. It's still kind of blurry on some of them if depends on how quick they are, especially those little finches,
Oh, yeah.
and those I get a lot of those barn swallows, and
Those things are fast.
I don't mind them. So we have a little mud nest right above the garage or to the right of the garage. It's in between a pillar and the wall of the house right by the garage, and I just left it there. Yeah, they shit all over the ground right there. I'll just hose it off. But it's 2 of them, and every year they come have babies. Their names are George and Ethel. I've got them named George and Ethel, and so my wife knows it's like George and Ethel. And then now I've got Caroline. She's the finch that lives in the birdhouse in the back that has her babies. So like I said, man, I'm a fucking weirdo now. Like I got my pet birds. I'm like an old ass man.
Yeah. I saw a meme the other day that said, back in the day, I used to be wild and crazy, and now I'm taking pictures of my big cucumber I just grew in my garden.
Well, and I used to make fun of my mom and dad because at their house in Helotes, they've been there their whole life, right? My dad has this big, I guess, garage that he had built, and what I always call them wood ducks. I don't know what they are. Do you know what I'm talking about? They're like a red. Is there a different name for them?
Yeah, they're black-bellied whistling duck.
Okay, and they come back every year, and there's a hole in one of the trees that my mom had cut, and it's hollowed out inside. Every year, they come in there and have their little ducklings and leave. But I mean, I've had pictures of on top of my dad's garage up there. There's probably 12 of them just sitting there hanging out. And again, there I am, like I'm fascinated with fucking ducks, like The Sopranos. Have you seen The Sopranos?
Yeah, bits and pieces.
In the beginning, he's got his ducks and stuff there, and he's all excited. He got duck feed and everything. I'm like, good Lord, Luke, you need to get a life.
I mean, yes, but it's entertaining. It keeps you happy.
Do you still? And I remember it was the most fascinating thing, and I still rave about this. I remember in high school, you would take just a picture that you saw out of a magazine, and just take a blue ballpoint pen and draw identical to that. Like I don't know how you have that fucking skill to be able to look at something and just draw it freehand. Because man, I look like I've been stuck in a paint shaker trying to draw a picture. So do you still draw ever?
I don't. I kind of regret that I don't. It's just time.
Because it took
being older, I don't have the time to do it, and I do love getting so much detail into drawings that it would take hours upon hours. If back in high school, my attention span was 0 as far as paying attention in class, so I'm sitting there drawing in class the whole time. Yeah, and I had the ability to still get good grades without really paying attention. To where if I can get away with it, I'm gonna get away with it. Yeah.
My brother, we still find some of his old drawing books because he could draw, but he was a cartoonist. Like you could see some of the cartoon type drawings he drew. He has I forgot what it is. It's like the Star Wars little machine coming in, and there's a deer. He drew a deer out in the pasture, and it shot a laser and blew the head off the deer. And he's like, aliens go, and it was titled "Aliens Go Hunting," like stuff like that. And he was really good at drawing. I mean, phenomenal drawer, but it was more cartoonish stuff, where yours was more realism. And I just remember sitting there. Distinctly remember Ed O'Connor in the cafeteria walking up, and you had just your little ballpoint pen, and it was like a white-tailed deer, and you were literally drawing in all the hairs and shit on the body. I'm like, what the, like, again, I look like I'm in a paint shaker drawing when I do it. And nothing, I don't have that ability.
Yeah, I never really had the ability to create an image. I can copy an
Yeah.
image. I mean, I can look at it and copy it. I can take a piece of this one and take a piece of this one and a piece of this one, the body of that deer, head of that deer, antlers of this deer, and I can do that. But creating, having the imagination to do a comic like your brother
Yeah.
wasn't always really there, but I
You've
could
met my
get the
brother.
detail.
He's a little his mind works in different ways. We always laugh, like we're all sitting there having this normal conversation, and my brother interjects what he has to say. And you're like, what the fuck how did you come up with that, man? Like, what?
Just left field.
He was that way. Do you ever think about like underwater camera stuff or anything, or do you
Yeah.
have any? Or
No, I'd love to, and they make cases for these kind of cameras, and that'd be awesome too. But that's still another 1,000 or two just to get the case.
yeah,
And there's fishing guides down at the coast, like Eric Ozolins. He does all the shark fishing. He has got a great camera. He does great pictures when he's releasing the sharks, standing over their dorsal fin as they're going under the water. You got half the shark underwater, its dorsal out of the water, and the camera's right in that middle line, and it just comes
cool.
out awesome. And that's what I want to do too. Now that I see it, I want to replicate it. I want to try to see what I can do with it. But
And does he do it out there on the jetties, or does he go out on the boat like deeper where the water is a little clearer and bluer, where it's not as dirty?
I mean, he's fishing from the shore. He's a guy that runs down big shell, down pins,
Okay.
and he'll take a charter and have people catch the sharks from shore. But you're gonna have days where water's crystal clear, like we had a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
and he's taking awesome pictures. And then he'll do night pictures because you got no light. What's it called?
No refraction or reflection or whatever it
Right,
is.
all
Yeah.
that just distraction noise from cities. You're way out there in the middle of nowhere, and he's taking pictures of stars with his truck and fishing rods all lit up, and it just.
So I know you like to do some fishing. You caught some badass tiger sharks too, just off. Was it the JP Luby jetties that you did, or where at?
I haven't caught a tiger yet.
I thought you caught a tiger. I thought it was.
I've caught bull. I've caught blacktip. I haven't caught a hammerhead yet. I haven't caught a tiger. Me and a buddy Jeff Tondry, we are.
Hey, didn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, we're trying our hardest to get into it and figure it all out. There's a lot of trial and error. We just went this past weekend and lost 5 liters because Spanish mackerels were in the water, and we haven't figured out how to put a float on the leaders yet. So we lost 5 liters they cost like
razor
20.
sharp teeth on those.
Oh
things.
yeah, and those leaders cost $20-$30 each. So we were losing money left and right. Half our line, which is another $300 just to spool your rod, and it's another expensive hobby.
I remember you were looking at that video I sent you of the fishing, like catch me some of those cow nose, and they're migrating right now. I mean, just droves them. So I'm sure there's plenty of sharks, and those bull sharks that they like the freshwater too, the estuary style too. So they come up in the bays but they're, if I'm not mistaken, aren't bull sharks one of the most aggressive shark behind like a great white? They consider them very aggressive, or
They're pretty aggressive. In fact, there's a video that just came out in the Everglades where, like we were just talking about, guys washing his hands after catching a fish, and a bull shark comes out of the water and grabs him by the hand and pulls him in.
oh,
I mean, he jumps back in. You can see he slaps the boat on his way in, and there's just blood on the boat, on the deck. And he falls in, gets right back out. But yeah, and it's mainly just because they're in fresh water where a lot of people don't suspect them, and more people are in that kind of brackish to fresh water. And yeah.
I used to have the I used to have fish tanks in my house, and I got into. I was like, okay, I'm going to do a saltwater fish tank. So I think it was a 55-gallon tank, pretty good sized tank, and I was all excited about it. And I just got it all set up and just put water in it, nothing else. I hadn't put any live rock in it, or hadn't put in those little fish that You have to put,
algae eaters and
well, no, there's I forgot what they are. They're these tiny little fish, and you put like 15 or 20 of them in there, and it helps get all the pH, the nitrates, the nitrites, all that correct. Um, and I was like $2,500 in already. I'm like, holy shit. So I'm like, well, I'm already into it. I got to keep going. And I had a lionfish in there. I had anemones. I had urchins. Urchins eat all sorts of shit. Those little pencil urchins
crazy,
and
right?
stuff. Yeah. And what else did I have? I had an eel, moray eel. His name was Asshole. Because he ate everything and attacked everything. And the coolest one was one of those puffers. Those little yellow
Yeah.
puffers. His name was Nolan, and I'm not lying. Those, you buy these little frozen krill, and I'd put my hand in the water with him, and he'd come just nibble it out of your hand. I could like rub him on his chin right here, and every now and then he'd blow up, right? And so I was asking some people like and reading about it, and they said, well, that's kind of a cleaning process they do, because I heard that if they blow up, it could kill them. I'm like, well, I also heard that dolphins do that to get high. They fuck with the
they mess with the dolphins, yeah, and they have them blow up so they can, get some of that air.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
So I don't know how true it is, but go figure.
Just dolphins out there getting high.
Dude, dolphins are crazy. My brother was just in Cozumel swimming with some manatees and dolphins for, I think they were on a cruise with his daughter. And I was like, how was it? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, so what, did your daughter enjoy it? He's like, yeah. So you didn't enjoy that your daughter's having? He's like, yeah, I'm stuck on a cruise ship. I was like, but you didn't have to drive. You didn't have to worry about anything. You can get hammered. You can go do whatever you want. Your wife paid for it all. Like, what are you complaining about?
He's probably a lot like me. The more you're around stuffed in a big area with people, the more just miserable it gets. That's kind of my photography is I need to get away from people.
Yeah. I used to love going to concerts. Love concerts. Like and crazy ones at that. Like I've been to like Mac Miller or Macklemore or all those, and they were wild, Skrillex, stuff like that, insane ones. And now nope, don't put me around it. I want to get away from people.
That's when we were stupid and we were part of the stupid crowd. And now you're looking at the stupid people like, God, those people are so stupid.
Yeah. That's when we were making fun of bird watchers.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're them. Look at my cucumber. Yeah.
You know what's sad is I have a garden. Well, it's gone to shit now, but I have like a big ass garden. Again, I got all these damn books. The coolest books are those Smithsonian books. They're real colorful. They've got a lot of pictures and stuff, and my kids like them. I've got one on animals and then one about ocean stuff. So it goes from talking about like anemones and algae and coral reefs and ecosystems to the actual animals and stuff. And my boys just like, and even my daughter's real young right now, but my boys they eat up like, Daddy, let's look at this. Tell me about it. And my son of all people, like he's like smart as hell, and it just blows our minds. So he turned 5 in January, so he was still 4. And we're asking, what do you want for Christmas? What do you want to ask Santa for Christmas? And he says, Daddy, I want a hydrofoil. He's 4. 4. And it's like, okay. And so my wife and I are like, I know what a hydrofoil is, but how the fuck do you know what a hydrofoil is? And how do I go buy a hydrofoil toy?
For a 4-year-old, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on eBay, and I finally find this like Rescue Heroes hydrofoil from like 1999, still in the box. Bought it for him. Within 1.5, 2 months later, it's sitting behind my wife's car. She backs over and crushes it to 1,000,000 pieces.
Oh.
So I'm back on eBay finding another one that was now $100 for this thing.
Yeah.
And here I go, but he still plays it everywhere. But
that's awesome. Yeah. But, like my son's kind of the same way. They're just soaking up knowledge so much so quickly, and they find something that they got some interest in. I mean, they're all over it. It's awesome.
And it's hard because we don't let our kid play with or watch TV at all ever. They don't get YouTube. They don't, and of course they're young. My oldest is gonna be 6 in January, but they get a show in the evening. They don't get anything during the day. If they want something's books or at their daycare, I'm sure they put shows on and stuff for them. But it's not like they're gonna watch National Geographic. They're watching Disney or something like that. So
right.
It's been a challenge. But I'm saying, where the hell do you hear hydrofoil from? That's what I don't get.
It's crazy. It's probably just barely even mentioned, and they pick it up and like, where the hell did you get that from?
Watching what you're saying in front of them.
Yeah, big time. They'll pick that up easy and quickly.
Have you been out to Florida at all? Take any pictures or out that way?
I haven't been to Florida since I was a kid. My great grandparents lived there when I
Yeah.
was a kid, and I went there, and I mean, they had cottonmouths and alligators coming out of their backyard, and it was awesome going. And we went the beach, and you find sand dollars that are like 5 inches
No shit.
across. Yeah, and they took me. My great uncle took me in one of those biplanes, the double layers of, and you just sitting in a seat, kind of like Indiana Jones when he finds that snake in his lap, and it's just me and my great uncle, and we're flying over looking at manatees down in the water, and really, really cool experience. But I haven't been back since I was a kid. I got a buddy that just moved back over there. I'm waiting for him to get a boat, and then I'm gonna take a trip. He's got an extra room for me, but he's big into spearfishing, which I'm into also.
Never
So,
done it. I want to do it.
oh man, it's awesome being in the water.
Yeah.
Just awesome.
You just snorkel gear and just what are you spearfishing for mostly when you're down there?
Well, I mean, around here at the coast, poor day. I'll try to find a clear day and go in the jetties and shoot some sheep's head.
Oh, those are so cool. They got the human teeth in
Yeah.
them. You look like um I know there's a big problem with lionfish around there too. Or around here
In
they said there were. Or is that further north or something maybe?
It's probably deeper.
Deeper.
I haven't seen any around, or I haven't really heard any around this area, but we don't really have the reefs,
Yeah.
until you get out in deep water or you get out to the rigs kind of thing. I've only dove the rigs once. We were
You're
out there like
fucking
50
crazy.
miles, and 40-foot long whale shark swims up,
Oh,
and
no shit.
oh, it was awesome. We were running right out of air. I got like 3 minutes with it, but still, experience of a lifetime. And it's funny, my dive instructor here in town, he's
So
been
cool.
going his whole entire life hoping to find a whale shark. Never swam with a whale shark. My very first trip in saltwater, swimming with a whale shark. He was
But
pissed.
here in Texas,
Yeah.
just out there, and how deep is it out there? Because we have a shallow ass gulf.
Yeah, we were out there like 50 miles offshore. I mean, we were out there getting close to that drop off. It was a little over 100 feet deep because I actually went all the way down to the bottom. But just giant Goliath grouper, barracuda. So my first time down, the current was pretty strong. So the guide that we went out with, the captain of the boat, had a deckhand that dove underwater, and he would tie a rope down to one of the pilings underwater, and you'd pull yourself down just to fight that current.
Yeah.
And once you get around the pillars, it blocks the current from really hitting you. So the first time down, I was pulling myself down, and I realized my feet are floating way up in the air. Like, what the hell? And I realized I didn't have my dive belt on. Your weight belt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some lead.
So I turned around, and there's a 6-foot barracuda just right in my face. He's looking at the shiny part of my tank, top of the tank, and I looked at him and blew some bubbles, and he just took off. But have those teeth, man, just sitting there right in
I've
your
never
face.
seen a barracuda.
Oh, dude, they're awesome, and a big one is just awesome.
And you said there's Goliath groupers, which I know fish and catch them, you can't keep them or anything, and
Right.
But
huge.
huge.
This one, I mean, it was down in the pilings, but I think the dive instructor that was with that captain, he said it was probably in the 400 or 500 pound range.
Holy
Just
shit.
huge. Yeah.
And so that whale shark, I know they're docile too. They don't really, they're not affected by anybody. They're one of the biggest animals in the sea, as
Right.
far as.
But they got baleen just like whales. They don't have teeth like a shark.
Yeah.
So yeah, gentle, so chill.
Did y'all swim right up next to it? And
Yeah.
oh, dude,
For that split minute or two, oh, it was awesome. Yeah, I wish we had more air. And it's weird because way out there, you can see underwater for quite a while.
Oh, really?
And you could see the shadow of it, and it looks like a shark from a long ways away. And we're like, oh, there's a shark. And
Because
we didn't
the
realize
rear tail's different, right?
No, it's built like a shark. Its just head is a little more square.
No,
From you see them from a
Well,
distance.
I've seen them before. What I'm getting at is, so like a whale tail is flat, where
Right.
a shark's tail is like
Right.
that. So the rear tail's like a shark,
Right,
right?
right. Exactly. But from a distance, you couldn't tell how big it is because there's no way to really judge size when you're in this giant vast of just water.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you see it off in the distance, and you see the shadow, and you don't think it's that far, and you're like, oh, there's a shark coming. Looks like a big tiger shark or something, and then it keeps coming, gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and finally you start to see the little spots, and well, shark, dude, and get all excited, and you're probably breathing up all your oxygen.
Yeah, does it when you're sitting there under? I've never dove, and I've always wanted to. been one of my little bucket list things is to get certified. And again, there's more money when you start having to buy equipment and gear. But when you dive, again, you have to have weights and stuff, I guess, for your body. Why does your body go up like that or whatever?
Well, you got air in your lungs and you've got just your fat on your body is going to float naturally. And plus you got your basically your life vest that you can fill that up with air. And that's kind of the cool thing is you can fill it up or release it to where you sit and you just kind of hover and you aren't sinking, you aren't floating. You just kind of stay, called a buoyancy compensator, your BC. So you kind of play with that. So you got to have weights because you don't want to be up. You want to have something that pulls you down and you want to be able to fill up your vest that pulls you up. And that way you can release or inflate, deflate, and find that nice little middle ground.
And you can't go up too fast, right? That's how you get the bends. You have to do a certain level and then slowly come up. I mean, yeah, I've dove and it's like I can feel my ears popping and hurting just swimming. I say dove, I mean like with a snorkel, just going down 15, 20 feet underwater and I'm hurting.
Right.
So that's.
Yeah, going down, you want to pressurize, equalize your eardrums. But going down, I think it's like every 10 feet, you want to try to equalize. Coming up, kind of the main common rule is don't go faster than your bubbles. So you go up faster than your bubbles, then the bubbles inside your lungs and inside your blood are expanding fast too. And that's what gives you the bends is all that air inside your body is expanding quicker than your body
is equalizing it, I guess.
You're right. Yeah. Get used to it and absorb it.
That's kind of cool. I've never thought about that. So when you're diving down by those pylons, I'm sure you're seeing some sharks too, or by those rigs, because that's a full ecosystem down there of all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, triggerfish, spadefish, sharks, amberjacks, jackravells. I mean, just everything.
Triggerfish, right?
Yeah,
so those are cool to see.
Yeah.
And you said, what was it? Jack Carvels. I mean, those are just worthless fish to me. I mean, they're full. You can't eat them. We catch them out in the bay now, and they're a fun fight. But
I need more shark bait. Bring those to me too.
Anything to get you some shark bait.
Yeah, those are nice and bloody.
Oh God,
man. Scuba diving. You said it's on your bucket list. You got to do it, dude. It's just there is nothing more peaceful.
Where did you go here in town? Did you go here in town in San Antonio?
I did. It was there was a Dive Masters. They've shut down, but there's still Dive Worlds. And there's other small little shops, scuba shops, where they got a pool inside the shop and you go do your training and you do a couple hours. You got to do some lessons. And then you go we went out to the Comal River.
Yeah. They used to do it at Medina Lake.
Yeah.
And they used to do it by the dam.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck are you doing by the dam?
Canyon Lake too. Canyon Lakes, they sink cars. They call it North Shore. They've got sunken cars and boats. And that's mainly all for scuba diving. And dude, there's some monster bass down in there.
That's what I'm saying. There's some cars. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember Adam Riegel? He went over to Taft High School. Him and I, we kind of got scuba certified together. And David Conway, I think he was a year or two younger than you. Yeah. Yeah. He's awesome. He became an underwater welder. That was his job. And he was scuba diving as a career and underwater welding. He was awesome.
Well, I remember he was the pole vaulter. That little guy could pole vault fucking like no. But anyway.
Yeah, that guy's awesome. But we went over to North Shore and you're seeing all these bass. And then right when it gets close to dark, I mean, the bottom of the lake is just covered in catfish.
Oh, cool.
And the diver's thing to do is you take little cans of Vienna sausages and you open them up and you feed them. And I'd take my regular out and put a Vienna sausage in my mouth, and a catfish with a mouth wider than mine would come and grab it out of my face. And Adam and I, being fishermen, were like, how do we catch this without being illegal? Because you can't spear catfish and you can't do anything like that.
Noodle.
Yeah. So, we found a wrench up on shore, and you're underwater. You find all these break-offs of line and hooks. So we took a wrench and we wrapped the line around it, had a hook, and while we're underwater, we're throwing out these Vienna sausages, and we put one on a hook and we throw it out and hook it and twist real quick and catch catfish. We caught dinner that night, and game warden actually came down, and like people were kind of reporting us kind of thing.
Yeah,
and
you showed him what y'all did.
We told him what he did and what we were doing, and he's like, "Man, I can't think of a single way that's illegal. That's pretty creative, boys."
Thanks, prick, for trying to figure out how to give me a ticket for this.
But that's their job. But
that's cool
funny
as hell, dude. Damn.
And then out there at the lake, man, we did some night dives. Dude, that is a whole different world. You go on a full moon. It was just a whole different experience to be underwater. You don't have any of the outside noise. All you hear is your
Oh,
just
okay.
breathing in out of your
Yeah.
tank and just laying on the bottom of the lake and looking up, and you see the ripples of the
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 moon
moonlight.
across the
Yeah, yeah, and you got little catfish swimming in between the two of you, and
I'm
you
sold.
and the moon, and so awesome, so peaceful.
The only thing I've done that's been close to that is when, I was in Hawaii one time, we were on Big Island, and, it was with the girl I was dating and her family. We went, out one evening and I think we were out in Kona because we stayed in Hilo, which funny, Kona is like literally like it looks like Mars. Probably 4 inches of rain a year, 7 inches of rain a year, and then you go to Hilo, which is 2.5 hours away or 2 hours away. It's 120 something inches of rain a year. But anyway, we're out there, we're going on the boat, and you wait for like the sun to go over the horizon, so you see this like green flash, and we have these like surfboard things that have like pipe around them, and there's maybe 5 to 10 lights, like nice spotlights that shine down low, and you put on your wetsuit and your snorkel gear and you go out, and these lights are
Manta
shining
rays?
underwater, these manta rays, yeah,
Yeah,
and they're just barrel rolling, and you dive down a little bit and they're belly to belly with you, just doing these
that's
circles,
awesome.
dude. Hands down one of the coolest experience I've ever. And again, they had this like ink blot on their belly there, and they can tell you when you got back and you're looking at all of them and you're like, oh my God, yeah, that's when we saw this one. They're telling us, okay, that one's this name, this one is that name. We have
That's
them.
cool.
But I mean, one of the coolest experiences ever, of course, Hawaii, some of the prettiest waters. I mean, it's one of the most remote islands out
Right.
there, but it's just so damn expensive to get to Hawaii. But
Everything down there's
yeah,
expensive, yeah, yeah. I had some family friends that lived down there for a few years, and I was so wanting to go down and visit. Again, you got a free room kind of thing, and I just could never make it happen, and now they moved back.
well, yeah, the flight alone is like 5 grand to
Yeah,
get there and
yeah.
all that, and renting a car and everything else. But we didn't go on any other island. It was just Big Island, and I think they have one of the biggest cattle ranches. Like it's one of the largest cattle ranches in the United States or something is on the Big Island. I forgot what it.
They got
I mean,
axis deer everywhere, and
yeah, it's a huge,
I've
huge
seen the
thing.
videos of those manta rays swimming with them, and yeah, that looks awesome. Kinda
That's
jealous.
that's why we need to get a underwater camera. So, you know, and that's what I said. I have in that bag over there is the my GoPros too, and it's the GoPro 10 or 11, I think, or 10. But I mean, they're just a standalone now, encased and waterproof, and that's what's kind of cool. You just don't have zooms and stuff.
Right.
And when we were in St. Lucia, my wife and I, there's a little reef right there where we were staying that you could go swim and just we're just chasing fish around, and the fish are cool. I mean, I love the beauty of the fish, but the coral reefs and like the anemones and when you get these sea urchins and stuff, all of those are the coolest. I think they really, because that without those, the fish wouldn't come. You wouldn't have
Right.
that whole
Right.
ecosystem there to support that. Like,
Smaller ones gotta
yeah,
feed the bigger ones. Yeah, it's kind of the same thing at the Port A jetties. When I get in there for just spearfishing, snorkeling, shoot the sheep's head, you see the little urchins, and you see the smaller sea turtles, and then you'll see little sergeant major fish, little black and yellow striped ones, and there's fish and things you see in there that, yeah, you wouldn't even know are in there and that exist. And if you get, you know, 10 inches away, it's a whole nother ecosystem, a whole nother world. It's
yeah.
cool.
There's so where we're at North Padre, you keep going down. There's I think it's like Malachite or Malachite, whatever they call it, Malachite Beach.
Malachi. Yeah.
So they have a every year or so they have a deal where they have hatchlings, these sea turtle
Oh yeah.
hatchlings. And I took my kids there one time, and I don't think they remember, and I want to look it up again. But if anybody is ever looking, man, it's one of the coolest things to do. Just look it up. Yeah, from if you're coming from Port A, it's still about probably 45 minutes to get to there from Port Aransas or whatever. But they set up that orange fencing, and I
Right.
mean it's hundreds of little sea, and there's little fuckers, and I've been in the water with those sea turtles down by the rigs, and I jumped in the water and I grabbed a hold of one, and that thing just, boom,
Dude, they're
just oh
strong.
yeah, there's no man. I remember in Belize, I was in Belize one time, and we were with these guys that they go and they feed sharks and stingrays and stuff, and they're nursing sharks, whatever. But he jumped in the water and grabbed one of those sea turtles to show us, and he's like struggling to pick it up, and that sea turtle's like, "Dude, come on," But I mean, that thing was like that big,
Oh
and it was
yeah.
still he struggled. I didn't realize how strong
Dude,
they
they
are.
are strong and they're heavy because I caught one off the jetties one time, and it was probably just a little over 2 feet wide just on the shell. And I had to try to get the hook out, and wrestling with that thing was so heavy. And back in the days when we were in our high school days, that's who Eric Montgomery.
Yeah.
I started my whole spearfishing thing at the jetties with him, and we would kayak across the channel over the North Jetty, and we would just be kayaking across, and giant turtles would just come up next to us, and their heads are the size of volleyballs,
Yeah.
dude, and dolphins popping up next to your kayak, and it's awesome. Those turtles are just unreal. And one time he was like, "Man, I just want to jump in and swim with it." Out there, it's got a little sea urchin and a barnacle on its head. I want to pull them off. All right, but
That's on you, buddy.
it bites you, man. You're losing whatever it's nibbling onto.
Your digits are gone. Yeah. Well, and Eric was always a big boy, and I mean, he still is. I remember that guy. And every day when we were in baseball, when we weren't on the field, he was over there, Static X or Fear Factory, just
just gotta pump it up. Lift things up and I put them down.
Yeah, no shit. Well, shit, dude, we've been on for about an hour now.
Yeah,
doesn't even feel like it, does it?
It doesn't.
It's kind of cool. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
This was kind of cool. I wanted to get you on here. I want to get some exposure. Do you just have your Facebook page? Do you have anything else that
That's
you're working
really
on?
all I've been working on is just Facebook. I don't have an Instagram. I'm a Twitter. It's I do help kind of administer. I'm an administrator on a Facebook page called Whitetail Deer Photography.
You do so much more than whitetail deer.
I know. So and that just goes into my personal page. But it is cool to see people from up north, people over in Florida, people in South Texas posting pictures. The guy that created the page is up north, and he'll be saying, it's nice 20, 30 degree weather, and we're in triple digits down here. And it's like, man, screw you. And he's getting all these big giant deer. He's got access to a breeder farm where he has, awesome, good looking deer. And we're down here in Texas and taking pictures of city deer. And
yeah. Well, I want to help you create a page or a little website for them, and then we need to turn your Facebook page into where people can follow, where you're not just accepting friends, and where you have it's a dual thing. You
Right.
have a
yeah, I think I've got it set up to where people can follow. I think I've got a few followers, kind of people.
we're gonna set that up, get that going, because I want to. The beauty in these pictures are insane. Like I was showing my brother, and I was like, Clint, look at these. I was walking his office when I see him, and I'm like, Clint, look at this right here, and I'm showing him. He's, that's cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
and he gets all butthurt too, because he's like, no, I want to get a lens like that, and he's asking, and it's like, well, you just kind of got to break in and do it, because I do all these videos, and it's like, Clint, I suck at them. I think everybody's like, oh, they're so good, but then again, like, you probably look at them, some of your pictures, like, oh, that's a shitty picture, and I'd probably be like, dude, that's a badass picture,
Yeah.
But you get so critical. But.
Yeah, critical, exactly. I'm always wanting to improve. I'm always wanting to get better. Like, what could I have done differently? It's hard with wildlife because you can't dictate when they're going to move. You can't tell a person, oh, put your fist under your chin and smile, tilt your head. You got to take what the animal gives you, and it's kind of difficult with city deer. I'm always trying to find that angle where I don't have a house in the background. I don't have a fence right behind their antlers, kind of thing. So I got to find that angle. I got to work around the yards, the lots.
The coolest, but probably the saddest ones, though, are you take after Christmas, where they get so tangled up in the
lights.
Christmas lights. And if you could just have a certain section for those too, because that I always, when I'm scrolling and showing people your pictures, I'll check this shit out. And they say, oh, I was like, hey, but don't feel bad. They're going to lose these antlers in a couple months. Like,
right.
Probably in 3 months, they'll be gone if they don't get it all the shit off by then. They'll rub all that stuff off on a tree or.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Christmas lights, they break real easy. It's real easy to get out of that mess. I've found quite a few that I don't think I've ever seen one that holds the Christmas lights until they shed their antlers. I have seen ones with ropes, and I did find one this past season that he had a bunch of rope on one side, and he stopped. I stopped seeing him. I was like, oh, and he went to go rub a tree, and he got tangled up, and I ended up finding him. He got wrapped around a tree and another buck.
Oh,
so I don't know if he was rubbing and got hung up,
or
and then the other buck. Well, if they were fighting, how did they get around the tree too? So it's always a little weird. It sucks finding them that way, especially when you have history of them. I had sheds from that deer from years before. And then I found one year that had rope and a whole T-post that he was dragging behind him.
Oh crap!
Yeah, and the T-post was starting to rub on his shoulder to where the hair was all gone. And then it was during the snowstorm a few years back, and he shed one antler, but it's still hanging right next to the T-post in that pile of rope. And finally, I was able to find that whole T-post, the clump of rope, and both sheds were still tangled up. So that was really cool to find. But it happens with city deer. I mean, they're going to get into people's flower pots.
I'm gonna get your link and throw it on my website too, and I'm gonna talk to some people I know that look at this stuff. I mean, we got to figure out how to, because I mean, it's a rare set to see people get these pictures now and actually do something with them. Besides, everybody's got a phone, and it sucks that they're just trying to doing, or all everybody's doing this little
selfie thing,
the little selfie thing, like, hey, let me take my picture, and I want to, because so, and I was telling my wife too, it's like saying with that video stuff, like I would love to be a producer. I don't want to be in front of the camera. I want to be behind it. Yeah. I hate being in front of it. I suck at it. This is already tough enough. Let me tell you. but
yeah.
You hungry? You want to get some dinner?
Yeah, do that.
All right, let's do it, man. Thanks.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Things cool, right?
It's different. I mean,